Terima kasih semuanya sudah hadir di acara webinar sore ini. Kami dari perwakilan University of Leeds di Indonesia banyak mendapatkan pertanyaan dari calon mahasiswa yang suka bertanya tuh sebetulnya bagaimana caranya supaya aplikasi saya tuh diterima atau Pak. Nah, sebetulnya selama kita bisa melihat entry requirement dan hal-hal lainnya yang perlu diperhatikan, umumnya aplikasi mahasiswa dari Indonesia banyak yang sukses. Diterima, mendapatkan LOE ya, offer, kemudian mendapatkan surat penerimaan resmi, dan siap untuk berangkat. Tapi memang ada beberapa hal-hal yang perlu diperhatikan sekali. Jadi misalkan, contoh kecil aja nih ya, contoh kecil misalkan, kalau saya nggak pakai IELTS dulu, apakah boleh? Boleh. Mendaftar itu tidak perlu menggunakan IELTS. Jadi mendaftar itu bisa langsung mendaftar dengan dokumen yang sudah ada. Kemudian ada lagi yang bertanya kalau IPK-nya kurang, kira-kira gimana? Kami selalu menganjurkan untuk tetap mencoba, paling tidak jangan putus asa dulu, ya. Nah, dalam hal ini saya tidak berlama-lama lagi. Setelah ini kita akan mulai langsung presentasinya dari Mr. Martin Maule. Lantas nanti diperhatikan di dalam chat box daftar absensi kami akan kirimkan di chat, dan bagi yang ingin bertanya disimpan dulu, chatnya dibuka tapi tolong disimpan dulu, paling tidak nanti setengah jalan setelah presentasi kalau masih ada yang belum terjawab silahkan tulis pertanyaannya apa dan kita akan jawab satu persatu, ya. Right, Martin, go ahead. You may start your presentation.
Brilliant, thank you, Hendra. So good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Also, it's good afternoon, I suppose, for you, and good morning from the University of Leeds. My name's Martin Maule. I'm based here in Leeds and work in the international office and look after our activities in South and Southeast Asia. Thank you very much for joining us today. I can see people are kind of joining as the session goes on, and I picked up my language skills are not that great, but I picked up that Hendra, I think you mentioned posting questions in the chat box as we go along, so that we can address those at the end of the session. So we will kind of go through the session, not necessarily answering questions at the time, but we'll take questions at the end. So feel free to post them and we can kind of address them. If there is any issues with sound or anything like that, then I'm sure Hendrik will flag that with me. So again, thanks very much. Eid Mubarak for earlier in the week. I hope everyone is continuing to stay safe and well in the current difficult climate that we're all living through. I'm delighted today to have the opportunity to come and talk to you about the University of Leeds, to give you an overview of some elements of the institution. Obviously, there's a lot to it, so it's very difficult in a short period of time to cover everything. But I also want to touch on some tips from not only myself, but also from one of our Link to Leeds student ambassadors, ALYA, who is a University of Leeds student, and she can really give you an insight into lots of different elements, I think, of studying at the institution, including those tips about how to apply and the types of things that we're looking at a selective university. So yeah, I've introduced myself. On the next slide, I shall hand over to ALYA just to say hello and just kind of give yourself a kind of a bit of a background into your studies and your route to Leeds.
Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So hi everyone, my name is ALYA and I'm a second year physics student. I'm going into my final year soon in September. So I've lived in the UK for about 4 years now. I used to live in Cambridge for 2 years when I was doing my A-levels. And I've been a Link to Leeds ambassador for about half a year now. And yeah, it's one of my part-time jobs at being a student at the university. I'm also the vice president of the Indonesian Society, or better known as PPI Greater Leeds, and I'm also going to be the STEM director for the university. Yeah, nice to meet you all. Yeah, so this is a picture of me and my course-mates when we were at the German Christmas market back in 2019, pre-pandemic. move to the next slide.
Alia, your voice is not very clear.
Hello?
Okay.
Yeah. How much did you hear?
It was barely actually, very little.
Okay. Did you hear my introduction?
Yes, please,
Okay. Oh, should I do it again?
if you don't mind.
Yeah, okay. So hi everyone. My name is ALYA. I'm originally from Jakarta, Indonesia. I'm currently a physics student, a second year physics student, going into my third year soon in September. I've lived in the UK for about 4 years now. I used to live in Cambridge for 2 years prior to university when I was doing my A levels. I'm also currently the vice president at the Indonesian Society, or more well known for Indonesians as FAE, Greater Leeds. And I'm also going to be the STEM director for the Women in Leadership Society in the University of Leeds. I'm also elected Leeds ambassador. And in this picture, this is me and my course mates when we were at the German Christmas market in 2019 before the pandemic happened.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alia. Sorry about that. I was just trying to unmute myself there. Great. So what we'll do during the presentation is I'll hand over to Alia on a couple of occasions and just kind of ask for her personal kind of insight into some of the topics that I'm talking on from a more sort of general perspective. So just to kind of set the context of the University of Leeds, many of you may have already looked on the website or might be aware of some of the key elements of the institution, but we are very historic, date back to the early 1900s. And we are part of the Russell Group. So that's the research intensive institutions in the UK, pushing forward scientific and important ideas in some of the key challenges that are facing the world at the moment, including things like climate change and tackling pandemics. We're also one of the largest universities in the UK. So we've got over 38,000 students coming from 170 different countries. So very international, very large. A really interesting and diverse range of undergraduate and master's programs that you can choose between. And we also have a single campus, a single site campus, which is located very close to the city of Leeds, which I'll talk about in a little bit more detail. As an institution, one of the key strengths also of studying with Leeds is we are very targeted by graduate employers and by companies who are looking to recruit students that are going to be assets to their organisations. So we were in the top 5 of targeted institutions in the UK, according to the High Flyers Guide in 2021. So as I mentioned, we are part of the Russell Group, so it's a very academic curriculum, but also we have lots of other kind of softer skills that are provided as part of the education that are going to put you in a fantastic position when it comes to looking for graduate jobs when you graduated from the institution. Lots of support systems in place that I'll talk about in a little bit more detail through the presentation, including a very strong careers centre. And I'll focus a little bit more on the careers centre further on in the presentation, just to give you an insight into the kind of support that's available because obviously, a big part of coming to university is to enhance those employability skills for the future. So I talked about the campus and the location. So this kind of shows you a picture. The area highlighted is the university campus. As mentioned, it's a single site campus, a 10-minute walk from the city centre. So you kind of have the best of both worlds because it's that campus experience. But it's also something that's very close in proximity to the city of Leeds, which is one of the biggest cities in the UK. The Career Centre is also on site, and you can see some of the other main sites in the city that are, and on the campus that are kind of highlighted on this particular slide. And I guess at this stage it would be maybe useful to turn to Alia and say, how did you first find out about Leeds?
So I actually found out about Leeds through friends of mine. She was considering to do a degree in Leeds, and I thought, I was new to the UK, so I thought I could check it out. And I went to one of the open days with her, and I absolutely loved the campus. And it turned out they had the course that I wanted to do, which was at the time I wanted to become a nuclear engineer, so I applied to do that. But I just like a few months before I started, I kind of changed my mind to physics instead. But apparently the physics course at University of Leeds at the time it was top 5 in the UK, so it was a great experience for me. Yeah, I love
Yeah, brilliant. So you said the first and the first impressions that you had when you kind of came to visit the campus. What was your kind of what was your impression of Leeds, of the institution?
When I first came to Leeds, I realized just how diverse the university is. Everywhere I went, there was a lot of international students and people from different backgrounds, and I especially loved how the campus has. I mean, every building on the campus is kind of like close to each other. It's not like other universities like say York or Cambridge or those kind of universities. So it was easy to get around, and most of the accommodation buildings are really close to campus. And yeah, I just immediately could see myself being a student at the university.
Great. I think we lost you a little bit at the end there, ALYA, but yeah, I mean, I think you're right. The fact that that campus and the way that the campus is set in one location is a big benefit, and maybe in contrast to some of our similar types of Russell Group institutions where campuses are spread across cities. You have the city in close proximity, but everything is very much on your kind of doorstep. So just kind of touching just briefly on the city itself, it is one of the largest cities in the UK. Fantastic transport links for traveling around the UK, but also, traveling into mainland Europe and around the rest of the world. It's located in the county of Yorkshire, which is the biggest county in the UK, a very diverse county in terms of the culture, the sports, the countryside, the history. There's lots to do in Yorkshire, and obviously during a pandemic, I guess people have had an opportunity to probably do more in the local area than maybe they traditionally may have done. It's a very student-friendly city, and traditionally the student population has been one of the biggest in the city. In recent years, the business side has enhanced and developed more and more in Leeds, and now it's one of the largest centres for business, legal and financial services outside of London. So, lots of opportunities in terms of, going back to that kind of careers picture, lots of things that potentially could keep people in Leeds after they've kind of graduated from the institution. It's also a really interesting area in the north of England for that kind of culture side as well, as I mentioned before. Let's just have a look if there's anything else. So I guess, ALYA, for you, turning to you again. So what were your impressions of the city itself then? So you were saying the campus, is very, lots of international students, very kind of diverse. And what do you think about the city of Leeds, and what sort of opportunities have you found outside of your studies to take part in Leeds and the wider kind of community?
I love the city. It's kind of like a mini London. I think you can say that. They have a lot of shops, loads of restaurants, very, very vegan friendly, very halal friendly as well, as most of the Indonesian students that are coming to Leeds are probably Muslim. So it's and it's not too busy. It's not like London, but it's sort of like the city center is kind of like it's really close to campus as well. So if you want to go to the city and do some shopping or go to like restaurants and stuff, it's really easy to get around. I loved it actually when I first came, and I thought it was just the perfect kind of city for students, especially.
Okay, so just kind of touching a little bit on the institution itself and the general background. I won't go into too much detail on this because, as I say, I appreciate some of you may already have looked at this information and be aware of the kind of general academic subject areas. But you can see the faculties that we have at the institution are arts, humanities and culture, biological sciences, business, engineering, physical sciences, environment, medicine and health, and social sciences. So as an institution, as I talked about at the beginning, we're very large and we are very all-encompassing. There's only a really small proportion of academic subject areas that are not really covered at the University of Leeds. So most subjects that people are interested in studying are covered in one format or other at the University of Leeds. We're also very proud of the facilities that exist at the University of Leeds on our single site campus. So some images here just to kind of give you a snapshot of what they look like, and obviously they relate to the different elements of your education that you're engaged with. Obviously the IT clusters, the library facilities are fantastic. Lots of very interactive teaching spaces, and obviously that learning environment has changed a little during the pandemic, and will probably continue to look a little bit different for this coming September as well. Obviously lots of laboratories where there's lots of really interesting research being undertaken. For those that need any support with developing English language skills or learning other languages, we've got an excellent language centre, and we also have a kind of state-of-the-art fitness facility, the Edge, on campus, and all students who stay in University of Leeds accommodation get off-peak membership included at the Edge. And with a view to the Olympics beginning this Friday, some Olympians do train in the pool at the University of Leeds. The Brownlee brothers, who are quite successful triathletes, do train at the facilities at the university. So really fantastic facilities on campus and in and around the institution itself. So just to touch briefly on the kind of entry requirements. So those of you who are at high school in Indonesia doing the national curriculum would need to look at a foundation program. Typically, we would be looking at an average of around 70%, with at least 70% in 2 subjects that are relevant to the intended undergraduate degree program. English language requirements vary a little bit depending on what you would like to study, but typically it's somewhere between 5.5 with a minimum of 5.5 in each component, or with a 6 overall with a minimum of 5.5 in each of those components as well. So that's kind of what we would typically be looking for as entry onto the foundation program. In terms of how you go about applying for the foundation program, obviously it's really important that you do lots of research in advance, thinking about what it is that you want to do, what it is that you want to study at undergraduate level after you finish the foundation program. So, looking very closely at the options available with us. We do also recognise foundation programs from other parts of the UK and overseas, and obviously other curriculum that I'll talk about in a further slide as well. So if you decided you wanted to do A-levels, etc., then there are alternative routes. But the benefit of doing the University of Leeds Foundation is very much that you're on campus for that foundation year, taught by the University of Leeds staff as part of the programme, and the progression rate is really strong from our foundation course for students continuing on to study with the University of Leeds afterwards. It's always really important that you're aware of those deadlines for applying. For foundation, it's probably more flexible than maybe some other levels. So if you were applying directly for undergraduate or masters, the deadlines are probably a little bit more set and maybe more complex, but it is important that you're aware of any deadlines and you get your application in sufficient notice. We do, for students from Indonesia, have offer making sessions that we sometimes run through the year, where you can attend an interview with one of the admissions team from the foundation year and get an offer there and then potentially, or obviously you can submit your application with all of your supporting documentation. You just need to make sure you've included all the relevant information. We'll come back to you fairly quickly with a decision by email, and obviously if you're successful, you'll receive an offer letter by email, and then you'll be able to accept that offer letter if you decide that the university is the right choice for you. As mentioned, we do recognise other foundation years as well, and if you decide that you want to be elsewhere first, the key thing to do is you need to check with us that we do recognise the foundation year that you're planning to study, because obviously you don't want to join a foundation year that then isn't going to get you access to Leeds and maybe other institutions that are on your shortlist of study destinations. If you're applying directly and you're going to study some other international curriculum, such as the International Baccalaureate or A-levels or the US curriculum, etc., then we have different requirements depending on the program that you want to study. So you can see there's quite a big range. Some of the requirements are quite specific as well, and might also look, if you're doing an international baccalaureate, at specific achievement in your high level subjects as well. And there will also be subject specific requirements that you may have to have a specific A-level or a specific high-level IB subject in order to qualify for particular programs. Minimum IELTS requirements would be 6 overall, with a minimum of 5.5 in each section, but also we have requirements ranging up to 6.5 and 7 for some of the undergraduate programs as well. One of the really important elements when you're applying for an undergraduate degree is that personal statement. So when you apply through the UCAS system, the Universities and Colleges Admission System, a lot of the information that you submit is very generic and is not necessarily that personal. It's just kind of practical information that we would need to be looking at. But this personal statement really gives you an opportunity to kind of sell yourself as an individual and build a bigger picture about, you know, why you would be an asset to the University of Leeds. And Leeds is a very, you know, prestigious institution, top 100 in the world. We get thousands of applications every year. So it is, you know, it is a very selective admissions process that we go through. And this personal statement for those oversubscribed programs is very, very important and will be looked at very, very closely. As I say, it's that it gives us an impression of you outside of just the basic practical information that's provided on the application form. So you need to make sure that you stand out, that you're presenting a well-reasoned and well-prepared statement that illustrates to us why we should make you an offer. Obviously, the grammatical side and the spelling elements are really important, you know, the kind of formatting elements. Each institution that you apply to will see your personal statement. So if you make those 5 choices through UCAS, every university will see the same personal statement. So you need to make sure that it's generic enough and it doesn't mention a specific university, because, you know, if you apply to Leeds and you mention, you know, you love the University of Manchester, then obviously that's not necessarily going to go down very well with the admissions team at the university. And I would say that, you know, for the UK and for England, probably in comparison to the United States, for example, we're looking for something very, very practically focused that really illustrates why you're academically the right sort of student. I would say for the American system, the motivation statement is quite different in terms of what they're looking for. For us, we're really looking for you to illustrate why you are the right sort of student to come and study with us. And I would say 80% of what you write should focus on the academic subject area that you're planning to study. And then maybe 20% can focus on the extracurricular skills that you have. But the key thing to remember is that you are really saying why it is that makes you a better qualified student to come and study at the University of Leeds. So not just listing particular skills that you may have, but listing those skills, illustrating how you've learned them, and illustrating why they're relevant for your making you a stronger student to come and study at the university, and that you will be a kind of asset. So I guess that, you know, that key question, as it says in the slide, is always saying, so what to everything that you write. So what does that mean? Why is that important as part of this personal statement that you're putting together? And showing that passion and interest and wider reading is something that's really important, I think, as well. And as mentioned on the previous slide, there is software to detect any plagiarism. So if anyone has lifted something from the internet, that gets picked up by UCAS. So you need to make sure that it is your own statement, you are putting it together, and you're not just kind of lifting and reproducing something that you've maybe found on the internet, because that will get detected by the UCAS plagiarism software. ALYA, I guess at this stage, do you have, because obviously you've been through the process a lot more recently than I have, do you have any specific advice on the personal statement, and how did you find putting it together?
Yeah. Wait. So before I answer that question, I had someone message me earlier saying that my audio isn't very good. Can everyone hear me fine now?
Yeah, I think when you lean in, it's louder than when you sit back. So maybe, yeah, if you're okay to lean forward, it does sound clearer.
Okay, so this is okay. Yeah. Okay. So the one tip that I have that is really, really helpful. I got this from my personal tutor back when I was in Cambridge. He said that try to say that you're passionate in doing the subject without using the word passionate. So maybe show, I mean, the readers that you have, you know, you've read this book that sparks your interest in the field of, I don't know, engineering or something, or tell them that you've joined this seminar or that kind of online lecture that really interested you about the particular subject that you're applying for, and try not to mention, say, you want to apply for a law degree and you have an aunt who is a lawyer. They don't care about that kind of stuff. They care about you and why you're interested in the subject. So yeah, it's not about nepotism. It's about whether you're the perfect candidate for the subject. Yeah, I think that's my main tip.
Great. Yeah, thank you for that. And I always remember one example I got from an American institution who were raving about a personal statement they got where someone had written as if they were a pair of socks, and their personal statement was written from the perspective that they were a pair of socks and their journey through life. And yeah, that's not you know, for you know, some of the US institutions where they're looking at they're not looking at your academic grade. Well, they are looking at your academic grades, but they're also looking at the you know, the kind of bigger picture in more detail. They're looking at, you know, sporting excellence and all that sort of stuff. For us, the personal statement is that chance for you to just illustrate academically why you are well qualified. So I think that's always really, really important. I've not actually read the SOC personal statement. I'd be interested to read it at some point, but great. So in terms of applying for the undergraduate degree, obviously it's really important that you have a look in detail if you're really keen on Leeds at the options that we have. As I mentioned, we have hundreds of undergraduate degree programs, some allowing you to combine different elements that you may be interested in, some that are very focused on specific disciplines in a little bit more detail. So it's really important that you have a look in lots of detail at the institutional website and understand what modules are available, what study abroad options are available, what work placements are available to you as part of that, and also what the student satisfaction ratings are, what the graduate outcomes opportunities are as well. Obviously, again, checking those application deadlines that I'll mention in a bit more detail on the next slide. Checking the academic, you know, requirements. Are you taking the right subjects? Are you taking the right foundation course? Are you doing the right A-levels? Have you got the right level of English language ability? Or do you have the ability to get to that sort of level? So just understanding the context of where you're applying to ensure that it's the right choice. Obviously checking out the fees and the costs associated with study to make sure, again, there is a difference between the different types of UK institutions, and ensuring that you understand that. Applications are made through the UCAS system that I've made before. We've talked about that in a bit of detail, but again, remember just to be as thorough as possible and to kind of check the details that you're submitting there, which obviously you can get support with. And the key thing I think that maybe people struggle with, because maybe it's becoming a slightly outdated mode of communication in some senses, email is the way that we do communicate with prospective students. So you do need an email address, and you need to make sure that it's an appropriate email address as well. So maybe if you've got more of a joke one that you've created, it's quite good to create a more formal email account that looks a bit more professional, I suppose, if you're going to be applying to a UK university, because that will be listed on your form, and that's how we will communicate with you. You've also got your UCAS track system where you'll get updates on the decisions as they are made by the institutions, and then you'll be able to go through the process of accepting your offers once you get all of those decisions back, that you can find out a little bit more in detail here. So in a general sense, I mentioned, you know, researching at Leeds is really important. You look at the big picture across the UK. Lots of universities here that are offering lots of different subject areas, are based in lots of different locations. So do lots of research, make sure you make the right choice, attend the virtual open days, talk to people who've been to the institution, you know, like ALYA as a Link to Leeds ambassador is available to talk to offline as well. We have contact details on the website. We have academic open sessions where you can talk to colleagues. We have agent representatives, obviously, in country as well, who are experts about the institution. So just try and do as much research as you can to try and work out what's the right fit for you. Make those realistic choices. There's no point in applying to places and wasting an application because you only have a small number of choices on the UCAS form, and do check those admissions policies before you apply. Spend plenty of time putting together that personal statement, because as mentioned, it is a key part of the selection process. In terms of deadlines through the UCAS system, so if you're applying for medicine or dentistry, then the 15th of October is that application deadline. So it's quite early. You need to be aware of that. Obviously, those programs are heavily oversubscribed, really competitive to enter. I've heard on the news this morning in the UK, there's been a 20% increase, or they're expecting a 20% increase in applications to especially to medicine again this year. So it is a very competitive area to enter. 15th of January is the sort of general UK application deadline. For some very popular programs, they may stop taking applications after the 15th of January. It's unusual for international students, but be aware of that. If possible, it's better to apply by the 15th of January, in my recommendation. The 24th of March is that kind of art and design deadline. And then the 30th of June is the formal international application deadline. Decisions, we'll be looking in kind of, obviously these are slightly out of date now. We need to kind of update the years associated with them, but you'll be looking at kind of considering your options as the decisions come in, and then you'll be able to be receiving conditional offers, which will be subject to you finishing your education. If you are applying after you've already finished your A-levels or your foundation course, you may get an unconditional offer. And then you'll be able to make those choices in terms of whether what's your first choice, and then what's your backup choice if you don't quite achieve the initial grades. There is another opportunity later in the cycle to get a place if you don't secure a place at your first or your second choice. So we have a kind of clearing process where universities that have vacancies will advertise those vacancies, and that's happening at the moment. Typically starts in mid-July that clearing places would be advertised to coincide with the sort of IB results. But if you can avoid clearing, it's probably better, because you may not necessarily be able to find the vacancy that you're interested in. In terms of the postgraduate entry requirements, so looking at the requirements that we have for those programs that require a 2-1 in the UK, which is a second class upper degree, we'd be looking for that 3 GPA. And for courses requiring a second class lower degree from a 4-year degree, we'd be looking for a GPA of 2.8. And that's a kind of general guide in terms of what we would be looking for. Can differ a little bit for very popular programs that are heavily oversubscribed, but typically from the Band A and Band B institutions, those would be the type of requirements that we would normally be looking for. For a PhD program, so for a research degree, we'd normally be looking for students with maybe a master's degree in addition to an undergraduate degree with some research experience. Quite a complex area to apply to. It might be that you are required also to submit a research proposal, or you might be submitting an application to join an existing research group. But I'll maybe talk about that a little bit further on. Again, IELTS requirements typically start at 6.5 because it is a shorter program. Master's degrees in the UK or in England are 1 year. So it is very intense. So the requirements for English tend to be a little bit higher. In terms of applying for the master's degree, again, that research piece is obviously very important, and arguably, even more important in terms of looking at the detail of what's delivered, because it is just 1 year. There isn't as much flexibility on the master's programs. You're not going to have as many optional modules that you can pick and choose between typically. Some master's degrees can be more flexible, but normally they tend to be quite rigid in the structure because it's delivered over a very short period of time. At Leeds, we do have staged admissions for a number of our master's degree programs. Those stages are clearly kind of advertised on the website, so you're aware of when you would need to have applied by. But bear those in mind, and we also clearly advertise the decision date by which you will have received an outcome of your application as well. So obviously, the earlier you apply, the earlier you get a decision back, and you can think about your options. Also, when it comes to scholarships, and if you're applying for external funding or if you're applying for scholarships from the university, you obviously need to be aware of those deadlines to make sure you've got your decision back in enough time. And again, checking the kind of fees and the costs. Applications are quite straightforward through our application portal, and you need to ensure that you upload all of the relevant documentation. You can track your application processing online, and if you need to submit further information, if something's not clear, then the admissions team from the academic school you've applied to will be in contact with you to maybe ask you to provide a bit more context or a bit more clarity on something. And again, through that portal, similar to the UCAS portal, you'll be able to look at your decisions, And you'll also get communications by email, which are really important. So again, if you're applying for a master's degree, make sure that you're regularly checking your email account, because that's how we will communicate with you. And obviously during things like a global pandemic, as we're going through at the moment, there's lots of really crucial information that will be communicated to you by email that you really need to be aware of in terms of sort of deadlines and the kind of context of quarantine and things like that. And obviously you'll be able to make that kind of decision about accepting the offer via the portal as well. In terms of the research degree, again, quite complex in terms of the application process. More details on our PGR pages, where you'll be able to check in a bit more detail about what the exact admission requirements are, whether you would need to submit a research proposal, what deadline that needs to be submitted by, what funding is potentially available for you to apply for. Typically from Indonesia, we've accepted government-funded students onto our research degrees quite frequently in recent years. So there is kind of a track record of that. But obviously, it's quite a long process in comparison to applying for an undergraduate, a foundation, or a master's degree. So I would encourage you to start that as early as possible. And there's, as I say, there's guidance on the website in terms of how you would go through that process, because it is quite different across the institution. You know, there are some places you would apply to join a research team. Other places you would have to submit your own separate research proposal. We have worked quite closely with LPDP in recent years, and some of my academic colleagues have delivered some specialist sessions for prospective students to help support them through their PhD application process. So we can certainly, if you are planning to apply for a research degree with LPDP funding, then that you will, I'm sure, be made aware of those sessions moving forward. And I think we would continue to support those in the future if that's possible. And again, you'll be able to track the progress online. Okay, so sorry, I probably spoke a little bit longer than planned about the kind of application process. So I just wanted to touch now upon the Careers Centre. As we mentioned earlier on in the presentation, I guess that careers focus is something that is going to be really important, because it helps prepare you for what you're going to do after you've graduated from the university. So our Careers Centre, can see it's sunny in the background, which it is at the moment. ALYA, it's not necessarily always sunny in Leeds, is it? But clearly when we took those pictures, it was sunny at the time. So it is a one-stop shop for anything and everything in terms of careers and employability. If you want to, look at improving your CV, join a workshop, listen to some of our speakers, go and find out about the types of jobs that are available, this is the place that you would typically go. In terms of thinking about the jobs in the future, and I think especially for master's students, it's something that you need to start thinking about as soon as you get to the UK, because it's a kind of drawn out process in terms of applying for graduate jobs in the UK. So you really need to engage with the Careers Centre as early as you possibly can, to kind of understand the market, the labour market in the UK, which has changed quite drastically, as I'm sure it has in Indonesia and will continue to globally post-pandemic. The types of opportunities that exist are very much evolving, and the demand may be shifting to different types of industries. So, your career plans may have to change on the basis of that. And they'll be able to help you to identify the kind of skills and the abilities that you have, and maybe what you should be looking for in terms of job prospects. Some of the resources are available to you before you actually join the university, and you can learn more on the website about the events that we have, the careers fairs, and the types of resources that are available to you to help prepare you for a UK interview, which I guess will be different to maybe what you've experienced previously. And during that induction week, when you first arrive at the university, you will be introduced to something called the My Career website, and you'll be able to look at and kind of engage with that in a bit more detail. So in terms of the Career Centre, we have these kind of teams that can help support you with various different elements and help you with that kind of next step towards a bright future. So in terms of those information resources, it's, with things like helping you look at how you would consider starting a business potentially, how you would think about things like sponsorship visas, lots of things about academia, if that's what you want to move into in the future, and the research opportunities, information about maybe returning to your country or maybe looking at other countries that maybe you want to work in the future. Lots of events and workshops with big employers like Rolls-Royce, the United Nations, NATO, Procter & Gamble, and also some small and medium startups as well. Workshops, again, talking about how you can write the right sort of CV that works for the UK employment market. Helping you with that kind of careers guidance and having a bit more of an individual discussion and maybe identifying, drawing out some of those skills that you have that are going to help you to kind of understand what your opportunities are for the future, maybe running some mock interviews and finding out more about the jobs, the internship opportunities that are available to you as part of your studies and also outside of your studies as well. The Career Centre itself, again, excellent resources. It's something you should really make the most of during your stay in Leeds because it's really going to help you with that next step. It will also help you with looking at jobs internationally, so not just in the UK, but also preparing for maybe returning to Indonesia or looking at a global career in a big organisation, a multinational that has offices in big cities around the world, and lots of events that will really help to enhance your understanding of what you want to do moving forward. One of the big changes recently is obviously we have our graduate route visa, which is available from 2021, which is going to give you that opportunity to remain in the UK and look for a job for 2 years on graduation if it's something that you're interested in. So it gives that a little bit more flexibility to give you a chance to experience working in the UK, as well as experiencing the kind of world-class education. And the kind of careers portal, I realize I've probably talked quite a lot now. So ALYA, have you used the careers portal?
I have a couple of times to look for volunteering opportunities and internships and kind of like part-time jobs and stuff. It's really, really helpful. They also have actually a newsletter. So if you sign up for their newsletter, they will send you a bunch of like job opportunities to your email weekly. I think weekly or daily. I'm pretty sure it's weekly. Yeah, and I've also used their online CV kind of checking service. So if you send your CV through the website, they will kind of grade your CV according to the content and the word choice, and also kind of the structure of your CV, and they'll grade you and I'll give you kind of detailed feedback on it. And it's really, really helpful. I've been wanting to use their mock interview services, but I haven't been able to because I haven't actually received any job interviews, but I'm looking forward to that in the future, definitely. I've heard a lot of my friends say that they've helped them get their current job, so it's definitely great.
Right, and it's something obviously that's really, really important. We had a session for a group in India recently with one of our international careers advisors who was talking about, the types of support that's available and how it's kind of a volume game, a numbers game in terms of applying for jobs when you're looking for jobs on graduation in the UK, and how important it is to really broaden those horizons and not just think, okay, I want to work for Procter & Gamble or I want to work for, a particular firm in the future. You can apply there, but you equally need to be looking at lots of options because, you'll get shortlisted for a few. You might get an interview with a couple, then you may be offered a one or two in the future. So, it's very much a kind of numbers game. So kind of engaging with that portal and getting all of the support that's available is really important, especially if you do want to look at the graduate route opportunities in the UK and understanding the kind of the differences in as I say, the market at the moment, because it has shifted quite a lot. We do have lots of global career focused activities as well. So if you'd like to, explore career opportunities overseas, then definitely attend our global career series of events when you're in Leeds. During this past semester, I think we've organised events to do with China, Asia Pacific, India and Europe. So over 25 different events, workshops, employer presentations, alumni talks about working globally. And some of the sessions had speakers from, LinkedIn China, there's been Facebook, there's been UNESCO, Coca-Cola, Hayes, and kind of many others as well. So you can also listen to the recordings, and you can kind of scroll down the page and kind of get some really interesting advice from top company representatives and kind of expert career professionals from around the world. So, really, really interesting resources for those of you who are, interested in that kind of global career in the future and being based in different kind of locations around the world. So we touched on the graduate route, which I think is something that's been talked about quite a lot recently. So, just to be clear, it's that 2-year post-study work visa, and it does expand the opportunity for talented international students to build careers in the UK. So post Brexit and the United Kingdom leaving the European Union, there is now more of a demand for skilled immigration into the country to address shortages in certain industries, and as I say, in terms of how things are evolving in the science sphere and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I think there is opportunities definitely for highly skilled graduates to really develop a successful career in the UK now, because there is that demand in the job market. So successful applicants of the route will be able to stay and work or look for work in the UK at any skill level. And the graduates who go onto it will have to switch into the skilled works or tier 2 visa once you've found a suitable job. The graduate route does require a new visa application, and that's only possible from within the UK. So kind of important elements to remember. But as I say, broadly, does give you that opportunity, if you're thinking that you want to develop that international experience to take back and base yourself permanently in Indonesia, but you think you maybe want a year or two working in the UK, it gives you that scope. Or if you want to look more longer term at remaining in the UK, it does definitely give you that opportunity. Or as I say, developing that kind of global career where you're based in the UK, US, Singapore, etc., where you're kind of having a very kind of global outlook to your career. So obviously we've talked today to ALYA, who's one of our Link to Leeds students. We do have a whole range of students on our Link to Leeds platform as well, studying different subject areas from lots of different countries. And they're available for you to have a chat with about their experience at Leeds. And I think that's been, Ali, I don't know if you've seen more inquiries this year than maybe, I don't know if this is the first year you've done the scheme actually, but I guess lots of questions coming through because of the pandemic and people asking you about the differences in and so yeah, I guess there's lots of people that you can speak to who can give you that kind of insight into what it's like to be in Leeds, how they made the choice, what they enjoy about the city, how they've kind of settled in. So definitely encourage you to connect with the Link to Leeds scheme to hear firsthand from our students. Also, lots of other activities, I mentioned virtual open days, there's offer holder sessions from the different academic schools. If you know any alumni, equally really good to speak to any alumni who have been to the institution. And they can really help you, and obviously IBEC can help you through the process, and they're very closely related to Leeds and have had a long established relationship with us and are experts about what it is that we're looking for and how you would apply to an institution like Leeds. So I think that's an important element, just to research as much as possible to make sure that you make the right choice in terms of overseas country that you choose to study in, and then within that is a very diverse range of locations in the UK to be based in. So making sure that you do lots of research and work out what's going to be best for you. We do also have a team based out in KL. So that's the kind of email address and the contact number of and our social media accounts if you do want to kind of engage with the local team and obviously ask any further questions of them. And they do attend obviously events and exhibitions as well throughout the year, obviously virtually at the moment. Traditionally they would have been in country, but obviously everything's continuing to be delivered virtually at the moment. But yeah, again, more people for you to talk to and make sure that you're as well informed as you need to be to make the right sort of decision. Okay, so it's just 5 minutes longer than I'd planned to speak for, so relatively not too bad, I suppose. So at this stage, what I will do, I will stop sharing my screen and then open up the floor to questions. And I can see in the chat box there are a few questions that have come in. So I shall just seamlessly scroll up. Let's have a look.
First one, there is a questions about personal statement. Is it necessary for them to, or is it okay for them to put hobbies into personal statement? What do you think, Martin?
Yeah, I think you can talk about hobbies in the personal statement, but what's going to be really important is you need to really draw some conclusions from what skills you've developed on the basis of your hobbies. So you know, things like hobbies, if it's playing a particular sport, then you will have developed skills that will be relevant for your university study. You know, independent. If it's a you know, tennis, badminton, develop those kind of independent skills, the organizational skills of getting yourself to matches. If it's a team sport, you develop those kind of teamwork skills that are important for group work. So I think you can talk about these things, but I think that's, you know, maybe 20% of an undergraduate personal statement can focus on those kind of elements. But the key thing is that you really make it relevant for either the subject area or make it relevant for the general kind of life skills that you have that would make you a good student.
Right. Right. But Balkis, I hope it answered the question, yeah? Okay, Mas Rizky is asking questions about what is the different GPA minimum 3.0 and GPA minimum 2.8?
Okay, so that's yeah, so basically that's related to what we have different entry requirements for some of our master's programs. So some requirements, some of the programs, the requirements are slightly higher, and some of the requirements, the GPA is equivalent. So in the UK, we have a classification system called a sort of a first, a second class upper, a second class lower, and a third. And we have overseas equivalencies to those classifications. And for some of our master's degrees, we're looking, for the vast majority, we're looking for a second class upper equivalent. And that's where the requirement would be 3 or above. And for those degrees where we have a second class lower requirement, then it would typically be 2.8. So that's what you would be looking out for on the university website. We don't always list the specific requirements for Indonesian degrees, but we would always say in UK terms, whether it was a 2-1, a second class upper, or a 2-2, a second class lower, and that's the equivalence to each of those grades, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Some students is confused with that conversion thingy, but I can assure you the minimum of GPA required by Leeds would be around 3.0. Certain program they do require above 3.0. So basically, if you can get a higher GPA, that means bigger chances for you to get into the university. Right. The next one, for applying research degree at Leeds, do I need to email the supervisor first before applying through website?
It's a good question. Actually, we were discussing this within the international office yesterday. Now, unfortunately, there is no one answer to that question, because it really depends on the different areas of the university have a different process that they would go through in terms of applying for a research degree. So sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes the answer is no. And unfortunately, the way that you really need to find out about that is by looking on the university website, and there should be guidance about what steps are recommended in terms of applying for that research degree. As I mentioned briefly in the presentation, there are different types of research degrees that you can apply for at different institutions. Sometimes you will be joining a research project. So you'll just apply and you'll express an interest and you'll show your academic background, your research credentials, and you may join an existing research project. But I would say to a larger extent, you would tend to be applying for your own research degree, and you'd be selecting your own topic, and you'd have to put together a research proposal yourself. And have to get a kind of supervisor. But yeah, unfortunately, there isn't one answer to that. It really depends on the subject area that you're applying to, and there are slightly different processes depending on the subject area. So what we can do, we can help you with that, and we can guide you to the right parts of the website. As I mentioned, we have quite a lot of students from Indonesia have come to do their PhD program with Leeds in recent years, so we can help support you through that process. And we do have colleagues who are, have had quite a lot of students from Indonesia, and they've supervised them and helped them through the process.
Right. Can I add something here, Martin? I'll
Yeah.
speak in Indonesian ya. Untuk Mbak Putri, untuk apply PhD, the whole process is actually, yes, you will need to prepare your research proposal. Once you have your research proposals, then you're gonna have to look up on the website of Leeds, find out who has the same or relevant topic of research that you will do. Once you have found someone, then you can start to make a contact with them. To make things a lot easier, we are here actually to help a lot of PhD students. This year, there will be a group of PhD students ending up at Leeds. They'll be funded by the Ministries of Education. What we do is that we assist every PhD candidate. Once you have your personal statement, we will help you to do the try to supply you with the informations to look up on the website, right? This is the potential supervisors. Is this okay? Once you have found that those potential supervisors is relevant to your research, then we can start to do the process. Basically, if you allow us, we will assist you on this PhD application process. I'll leave my email below on the chat box. You can also start emailing me your plan, then I'll assist you in any way I can. Yeah. Right, let's go to the next question. My university doesn't have an A accreditation, still in B. Can I apply my personal statement to get a scholarship for master degree at Leeds?
So I guess when it comes to the scholarships and the scholarships that we award at the university, they tend to be based upon academic merit to a large extent. So the students with the strongest academic background would tend to be the ones who are selected for the scholarship. We obviously do look more broadly at applicants and see what skill sets they have. But I would say largely, if you're applying for scholarships at Leeds, we're normally looking at the sort of strongest academic applicants. We are on some of the scholarship lists in Indonesia, so there may be opportunities for you to obtain funding nationally. But yeah, in terms of our scholarships, normally they would be awarded on academic merit.
Oh, there you go. He just added the questions. Chevening scholarship. Chevening scholarship, you're going to have to check with Chevening. But obviously, if you have B accreditation based on our experience before, you still can apply as long as you have a very high GPA also. That will sort of compensate the accreditation. Yeah. So, Balkis, make sure you get more than 3.6 GPA. Right, yeah. Martin, there's a very good question here from there's a very good question here from Indah Permata. Completed master from Birmingham, as now lecturer at Andalus University, would like to find the opportunity to study PhD, accounting and finance. With regards to your personal statement, you said before it should be 80% talking about academics performance and the rest of it for non-academic. Is it applicable for the personal statement is it applicable for PhD application?
No, to be honest, the example I was giving was more related to undergraduate personal statements. So that was kind of specific to that example. So I think what you would need to create for applying for a research degree would look different. Yeah, the example is more related to if you're applying for your personal statement through the UCAS system. Right. Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. So PhD is not necessary to be the same personal the kind of personal statement with UG and PG. It will be different. Who's that? Mbak Indah, yeah, Mbak Indah. Keep in touch. Yeah. We shall assist you in any way we can for PhD application. Yeah.
I did it already. Thank you, Mbak Hendra.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, with Mbak Iva. Yeah.
Oh, with Mbak Iva. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Okay, and then Huda Maulana Masuda. Follow-up questions on the research degree questions. I have read the details on the PhD study program that I want to apply. Study program require us to identify a research center that has relevant research topic, but I cannot find one with my research interest. Any suggestion?
Yeah, I guess that's I mentioned early on in the presentation how big Leeds is and kind of how all-encompassing we are in terms of academic subject topics. But obviously in terms of research, there will be certain areas within the research degrees that we will have academics who can provide supervision, and we have expertise. If you've got a specific area in mind and Leeds is unable to kind of provide support around that, I mean, we have colleagues within the university whose job it is to try and help facilitate those relationships. So if there is someone, they can try and help you to identify that particular person. So we can try and help with that. But fundamentally, if you can't find the right person at Leeds, then I would suggest they're probably better to look at alternative institutions and try and see who has that reputation for research into the particular topic that you're focused on. And I'm sure, if you're looking to come to the UK, you will definitely be able to find someone who will have a research interest in the topic that you want to focus on, because it's such a diverse sector. So I guess first step is we can try and help you to identify that if you've not been able to. Second step, if we don't have it, then I would suggest the best thing to do is to broaden the search to other institutions.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, University of Leeds is a very big university, but doesn't mean that they have everything. They have every topics in the world to do research. So feel free to get in touch. We shall help you to find the right university. Yeah. Okay, I would like to answer this one. I apply for Indonesian scholarships to study master. Allow me to apply for 2022. When should I apply? Best is that you submit your applications by later after September 2021. Yeah, must agree. So don't apply now and ask for deferral. It is better to apply for next year. So don't worry. If you apply now, there is no benefit for you to apply now if you know that you'll be going by 2022. Let us finish the 2021 intake. We have a lot of students going to Leeds this year, and we are busy enough with them. So make sure you submit later after September 2021. Right. Now, students, don't forget, we will be sending the attendance form on the chat box. Please fill up for you to get your later on the e-certificate. Okay, now any more questions? Silahkan bagi yang ingin bertanya langsung. Anyone would like to ask? Mbak Indah, you raise your hand. Go ahead.
Yes, Pak Hendra. Hi everyone. Sorry, my video is off. Hi Martin. All right, so I'm wondering related to the academic performance, because actually it's one of the requirements, for example. So is it one of the consideration which is more important? Because I'm not really good in academic performance actually, but I'm outstanding in non-academic performance. So what do you think about that, Martin? So is it if you probably don't reach around, for example, the GPA is minimum 3, but probably they only got 2.8, for example. So is it kind of okay, you probably don't try to apply on that department. So what do you think, Mr. Martin? Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, thanks for your question. Yeah, no, I think, I mean, as mentioned, I guess generally, the University of Leeds is a Russell Group institution. It's kind of selective entry system based upon, academic merit is traditionally what we would look at. But for something like a research degree, if you do have strong knowledge in the topic area that you're looking to undertake your research in, you've got a clear understanding of what you're looking to focus on, you can really kind of sell yourself to the potential supervisor who you're looking to work with in terms of your background and motivation and kind of commitment. Then I would say for something like a research degree, then it's still worth kind of continuing that process and continuing to engage with us. But at the same time, maybe make sure that you have alternative options to sit alongside that, maybe with other institutions that you've identified that also have research into the same area that you're interested in. So I'd say, I think these are only guides. As Hendra said, traditionally we are quite selective in terms of the GPA especially for masters and especially for undergraduate degrees, and for research degrees. Yes, we are, but if you have those broader skills and you're able to really kind of illustrate that you're going to be an asset to the university, because essentially what we want to do as a university, we want to push ourselves further and further forward in addressing the key issues that are challenging the world at the moment, and we have lots of really interesting research which is happening at the institution, and that's really important for us. And in terms of fundamentally addressing those issues, but also developing the reputation and the global standing of the university, so that the more world-class university that we can research we can house at the university, then that's better for us. And academic colleagues will be looking to work with students who are looking into those topics that are really important and that are really interesting and are going to bring in research funding and kind of enhance our global reputation. So I would say that don't rule yourself out on the basis of that. Go through the process and kind of see how it plays out.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Hendra.
No worries. Glad that you asked. Anything else? All good, Mbak Indah?
Yes, Pak Hendra. Ya, bisa.
Oke, yang lainnya mungkin ada yang ingin menanyakan, mungkin ada yang mau tanya ke Mbak Alia, kalau di Leeds makannya apa? Mbak Alia?
Saya jawab nggak tuh, Mas?
Boleh dijawab dong, makannya apa kalau di Leeds?
Ini ngomong pakai bahasa Indonesia atau bahasa Inggris?
Martin, we are going to use a bit of bahasa Indonesia, ya? Indonesian language.
Ya,
That's
ada
fine.
pasar halal nggak gitu loh maksudnya Mbak Alia. Kalau di Birmingham, we found it in Birmingham.
Yeah, so basically Pak Hendra just asked me what I eat normally in Leeds. And this is interesting because I'm actually vegan. So I don't really buy meat, but I know that a lot of people here in the meeting are Muslim, so they require halal meat to eat. In Leeds actually itu banyak banget pilihan makanan halal bahkan di supermarket besar seperti kayak Morrison itu mereka jual kayak mereka ada halal meat section. Terus ada supermarket namanya Abu Bakar itu di area di sekitar Hyde Park, jadi about 15 to 20 minutes from the university. Itu mereka jual I think their store is 100% halal, but I'm not too sure on that. Tapi mereka juga jual all kinds of halal meat. So yeah, Leeds is very, 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 very halal friendly and vegan friendly.
Right. Kalau di Birmingham itu pasti Mbak Indah dulu mainnya ke Bullring tuh. Di Bullring itu ada halal butcher, betul ya Mbak Indah ya?
Tiap sore jadi makin murah, £1.
Pas lagi sale. Nah, kalau di Leeds juga sama. Jadi hampir di setiap kota di Inggris makanan sangat-sangat mudah. Nyari beras mudah, nyari daging halal mudah. Bukan hanya dagingnya halal, tapi dari pemotongannya pun butchernya itu sudah halal. Ya kan?
Saya mau tambahin sedikit, Mas.
Boleh.
Biasanya di restoran-restoran itu juga suka nyediain daging halal, cuman mereka nggak ngasih tahu aja. Jadi kalau misalkan nanya biasanya tuh entah ayamnya atau lamb-nya itu halal, jadi make sure nanya aja. Biasanya kalau beef jarang, cuman kita sudah punya.
Oke, cool. Silakan bagi teman-teman jangan lupa itu sudah ada di chat box-nya, chatnya dibuka, daftar absensinya silakan diisi. Baru sebagian yang isi, masih sebagian lagi belum isi. Oke, next, any other questions? Ada lagi yang mau bertanya, silahkan.